Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. You want a great project to do with your grandchildren? Write a book with them. Dayle Reynolds produced a mystery novel with her grandkids entitled Lies, Alibis, and Murder. From corporate quality control and safety director for a dairy company to writer. How did this happen, Dayle?
Well, it started when my three oldest grandsons slept overnight one night. And we were watching a movie, an old movie from 1985. And favorite movies of all time were written in 1985. And they were wondering why there was no sequel to this movie. So, well, let's put our heads together and see what we can come up with. And that's where the whole thing evolved. And so we just started talking about characters, introducing grandchildren, nieces and nephews of the original casts, which cannot be named, and then wrote a book from there.
You basically wrote the ending to a movie that you were watching with your grandkids.
Yes, true. Yes. It was like if they were going to do a sequel to this movie, this is it. Only it's using a different cast of characters.
How old are they?
Well, currently they're freshmen in high school, a 7th grader and a 4th grader. But when we started this, we started during COVID. And of course, school was off and they had nothing else to do but, their little Zoom calls, So we would work on it. I would work on it during the week. On Monday, my oldest grandson was taking piano lessons. And so on the way to piano lessons, we would come up with the next chapter's plot, the twist, the angle for the following chapter. And on Sunday night, when we were all together for dinners, we get together every Sunday night for a family meal, we would read the chapter and make any changes that we thought we wanted. And of course, with my background, I had no idea how to edit a book and how to not end a sentence with a preposition. And so I needed to enlist some help for editing, marketing, publicity, that kind of thing.
So what did you come up with?
It's called Lies, Alibis, and Murder. And it is not a gory, horrendous tale that your children don't want to read. My 84-year-old brother-in-law read it and said, "Oh, this was so good." So it's kind of like for all genres. It's an easy read. It's a, whodunit movie. Who actually did it and how did they do it? So it starts out with 2 high school boys in study hall. And these kids in study hall, one of them is a baseball fanatic and he had earbuds and he was listening to a baseball game where he heard an announcement about an unsolved murder case from 50 years ago that took place in their hometown. So they thought they would do a little research on it. And one of the kids had a grandma that has dementia, or does she have dementia? And she was spouting about how she wanted to clear her conscience before she died. And so that's where it all starts. And it has an interesting cast of characters. They're high school students. They're all in the same class. They come up with the ruse to get together with their parents not knowing about it. And, where they lie about where they're going and what they're doing. And they go to an old mansion and they search the old mansion and find weapons and eventually later in the book go back and find poison. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful, fun tale that anyone would enjoy. And it's kind of funny, they named the characters, and all of the characters in the character introduction, they know kids that are like this, that are like the overachievers, the only want to do soccer for a scholarship to go to college, and the knockdown, drag out gorgeous girls. And
what are some of the names?
Jonah Stone. He's a promising quarterback. Miles Kelly, class clown. Marla's smart, but very indifferent. Paige Raven is very popular, and she's the head cheerleader. Maddox Taft is just a kid that's good at everything and wants to be the valedictorian. And I have Grant Dalton. And if he's accused of anything, he most likely did it. He's kind of a rebel marching to his own drum. And Olivia Graves is just afraid of everything. She's very suspicious. And then we have the assistant Hill City County coroner that's also in the book. And she ties in later. Her grandmother was actually the coroner during the time of the murders.
Nice.
Yeah.
How are you telling people?
A lot of people that we go to church with know that we have done this. My grandkids have told all their teachers about this book and how, oh, yeah, we wrote a book. And everybody looks at them like, sure you did, kind of unbelieving of it. So we're now trying to set up some library time in the schools. They go to 3 different schools in the same town, but to get the book out to their friends. And at the very end of the chapter, we kind of alluded to a sequel, that takes place in a rural Kansas town with a cemetery that is found in the backyard of property, an abandoned cemetery.
You're talking about getting the book into the library. That's good. You would think, they can go to their individual schools, talk about the book, sign copies of the book, get people to buy the book, in the summer. I'm sure you have summer reading programs, but if these kids are on social media, get behind it. Start talking about this book.
Yes, we have a Barnes and Noble that's in Kansas City. It's not far away, and we wanted to get it into some libraries too. I think everybody is a little afraid of the title. Okay, me and my grandsons wrote the book. Oh, it must be a children's story. Well, no, it's really not a children's story. And I don't want you to think that I let the grandchildren watch horror stories, nothing like that. It's just a good whodunit,
Well, it sounds like the Hardy Boys or something.
Kind of, absolutely. Yes.
And from your synopsis, it looks like they could go on solving cases for, who knows, till they go to college or whatever,
Yes, we are dabbling already with the second. So, yeah. And the kids, I just really wanted them to get behind the fact that if you put your mind to something, you can do it. Don't quit. Keep trying.
Such a great message. What a great project.
And the kids are awesome.
Of course they are. They're your grandchildren,
they're
right? I mean, come on.
Yes.
Right. You are Dayle Reynolds, author of Lies, Alibis, and Murder. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for calling. Have a wonderful day.
A doctor of engineering, S.S. Kamal writes papers, does research and presentations as part of his government job. He's also bought and sold several tech companies and decided to write a book about his observations and experiences. It is entitled, Should I Start My Own Business? How Do I Plan for Success? What was the catalyst here?
My own personal experiences, experiences of my friends who started or tried to start their own business. The book's not written, I'm not a university professor and a business faculty or a ivory tower consultant. I've started 3 tech businesses, sold 2 of them. The third one is doing well. But I've seen colleagues get into trouble with how they start businesses. And I've realized, I don't know if many people know, that every month in this country, over 30,000 small businesses close their doors. They just call it quits, throw in the towel. And that's sad. I mean, it's sad not because of the life savings that they lose or debt that they accumulate, but just the dream, for whatever reason they wanted to start this. And I didn't think that was necessary. It's not complicated. I don't think, I mean, it's hard work for what you love to do, but it's not complicated. And I wanted people to understand there was a very clear way towards the path of getting from where they want to be to where they achieve that dream.
Are there common mistakes?
Yeah, I'll answer that two ways. There are common mistakes that people make. We all do when we don't know, especially if it's the first business. But there are also common mistakes. I see a lot of books that talk about starting businesses, diving right into, here's what you have to do. Organize your suppliers, get your inventory, get your books together, That's a mistake because it's not focusing on the important things. And that's one of the things I really wanted to do with this book is answer that question first. Should I even start the business? And if I should, why? Do I really know why I'm starting? There could be many reasons, and we talk about that in the first chapter. But once you feel you understand why, then you avoid those mistakes. And then the book starts almost in a conversational mode, walk with you through that. You have a clear plan and you have a clear idea why you're executing the plan. That's really what business is about. And doing other things other than that is probably the big title mistake in the question you asked.
You would think in starting a business that you have something that someone needs.
Right.
How do you know? You might think it's, indispensable, but I mean, I would think you would have to do some research. I mean, is that where it starts?
It does, and you hit it right on the head there, Alan, because the initial parts of deciding should I start the business is answering the question, how do you know? And we talk about various ways. I mean, if somebody says you cook well, how do you really test the market? Not your family. If you make scented candles or quilts, you have new software that you think is going to change the world. How do you go about it other than saying, I think this is the next big thing, and then jump into an empty swimming pool? And it was important for me to get that first 1 or 2 chapters right. We don't spend a lot of time on it, but it's a blueprint for think through the data that you're talking about that convinces you it's not me that likes it, because it's not me that has to like it. It's the people that have to buy it. And do I have information, that convinces me this is right? Because that clarity is important. Yeah. You really begin to see clearly that, I'm doing this because, not some visceral thing that, I make great lasagna, which unfortunately has been the death of many small restaurants.
Lasagna in particular?
No, just being told that you're a great cook. You're a great cook. You need to start a business. Yes, that may be true, but should you start that? And that's really why I wanted the title to not be some esoteric academic thing. I wanted it to be very factual, and the conversational tone of the book is like, hey, wait a minute, let's ask some simple questions. Let's do some very, very simple research, some of which makes just common sense. If you gather that data to paint the picture in your head, you can look at that and say, maybe not a business, maybe a partnership, may I work for somebody else. Or you may say, I get it. This really can be big. I love it. I've got passion. Now I want to plan. And that's what the rest of the book talks about.
Is how to make that plan.
Right. Step by step. I mean, it's like I said in the intro to it, I'm walking through it with you one step at a time, because I've been there. So my mistakes don't have to be yours. And that's something I really also wanted the book to talk. It's not just about success. The book does discuss failures, because you have to understand what the failures can be so you can avoid them. It's if you know where the potholes are, not just from me, but just from business and what kind of business you're going in, you plan ahead, and they no longer are these big things that can totally destabilize your business. So success is also learning about failures. You don't have to experience them, but you need to understand them really well. And that gives you confidence too. It's like, yes, I know this is about to happen, whether it's external in the market or in your own business situation. And knowing that it's going to happen, you go, what do I do? Oh, I do this, I do that. And then it becomes manageable. And that's how you get to success, is managing that minefield, if you will.
Well, is it the same whether you're starting a tech business or, you're selling lasagna, right?
Right.
Do the same principles apply?
Well, the principles do, and that's an important assertion I'm making with the book, is that whether you're doing A or B, as you describe, are there fundamental things that I still have to do, and are they as complicated as some of these books make them look out to be, turning us into accountants, and I'm trying to sell lasagna, and now suddenly I got to worry about, balance sheets and debt and this. My God, how do I even? And that's what a lot of people tell me, make them hesitate. And it's like, okay, what if it's not about these complicated things, but they're about important things? Those important principles, I think, are common. Because I talk to a lot of colleagues of mine that start other businesses in other sectors, and we trade war stories and successes, and I begin to see patterns. I've been doing this for over 25 years, and the patterns are the same. It's almost like the pillars of a successful business. And then they begin to have their own flavors, of course, based on what you're doing. Somebody that starts their own law firm doesn't need inventory. Somebody that is starting a restaurant needs supplies, but doesn't need, shipping books out of a warehouse. Those changes may differ, but the key tenets are there, and they're really simple to understand. And I think they arm people with the confidence that, okay, let's do this the right way. I mean, 30,000 a month is a lot of businesses that shutter. Yeah. And that's sort of maybe what sparked my interest, is like, I know there's a better way because I've walked that path with its potholes and mistakes.
What was your biggest mistake?
I didn't verify some things with suppliers. I'm in the tech industry, and your supply chain, as we're reading in the newspaper, is critical. And verifying suppliers, because you're a small business, people feel like they're not entitled. Like, who am I? I'm just, two of my buddies and I are starting something, whatever it is, even if it's a restaurant, how do I go to this supplier and make demands? Well, you're not making demands. You're just trying to make sure your supply chain, your oxygen, doesn't cut you off. And I actually do know restaurants that have failed because their supply chain was weak. So those kinds of mistakes we talk about without making it complicated. And that's the thing I insist on. It is not complicated. I won't say you work hard. You won't work hard. You will. But I found that if you're doing it, you love it, you're convinced, you have a clear eye on what you're doing, you're willing to do these hard things. But to make it complicated where people feel intimidated by it, and well, maybe not, or ignore them completely and fall on their face, which is that horrific statistic I mentioned, that is unnecessary.
How are you promoting your book? Where are you going to talk about it?
Well, I'm talking about it at universities. I've sent it to some people that distribute books in everywhere from airports to libraries. I'm asking people to repost notices of it on their Facebook. And, yes, of course, because I do want sales. I mean, that's not something I'm going to try to spin. But I really, really hope I get the feedback that tells me, am I right about the fact that people, once they're confident of what they're doing and it's clear to them why they're doing it with a good plan that makes sense to them, not something they picked out of a book, those statistics would be improved significantly. And an important part of this to me personally, at a personal level, is half the labor force in this country is employed by small businesses. Not by government, not by huge companies, half of it by small businesses. So if you can get those small businesses to be more successful in a big way, doing simple, logical things that people, many of them, they do in their daily life about their own money, their own accounts, etc., how would that improve the situation? So I won't lie to you. I'm looking for a big impact, because I believe the simplicity of it is there. So the more people look at it, whether they agree with everything in it or not, the habits that the book promote and the questions that they ask you to think about aren't complicated. And once you answer them, you go, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And that's critical.
Yeah, for sure. You are Dr. S.S. Kamal, author of Should I Start My Own Business? How Do I Plan for Success? Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Alice. Have a great day.
David Glicker taught English literature, theater arts. He and his wife were both actors, and they met at a cast party. Now, David, you say this plays into your book. It is entitled The Ennead Nexus.
But I had known her the moment we met. Even before we talked, I had known the information entered my head that I had known this woman from many, many past lifetimes. It was not a thought, mind you. It was information. And at the same time, I knew she knew. And it was like, we knew this without talking. We've talked about it afterwards. And I've had other weird experiences, at least some people would call them weird. I've got to the point I don't call them weird anymore, that I've used in the book, particularly in the first chapter and later on, where he's seen all of these past lives. I had that happen to me, and I was not under the influence of psychotropic plants.
Wow.
In the book, he is to some extent. I remember once I was 18 years old. Like I said, I was hitchhiking around Europe because I went to Europe when I was a kid, and I just fell in love with it. And I went to visit a friend I had met in Spain, and he lived in Germany, just outside of Bonn. And we and his friends decided to take a bunch of chickens, and we went up and cooked the chickens in a gazebo up in the mountains there, the Harz Mountains, I think they're called. And I just sat there. We didn't leave till early in the morning. I just kind of went into this thing that lasted hours. Every now and then somebody would come by and say something to me, but otherwise they just sat there. It was one life after another. It was really strange. I mean, I don't consider it strange now, but at the time it was.
Tell me about your book. What's the story?
Well, the book idea came to me like, geez, had to be 35 years ago. Driving through an alleyway in an industrial part of South San Francisco. Boom, it just came to me. Okay, and I worked on it in terms of notes, and I wrote a few things over the years, but I didn't really get going on it. I had a lot of other things in my mind, and children to bring up and all that sort of stuff. And I would make notes in the car as I drove. But a year after I retired, we were in my little camping house we had in Germany in the middle of the Black Forest, which has to do with the book, by the way. Part of it does take place here. And the cat woke me up. We bring our cat with us. 8 a.m, woke me up to give her wet food. I gave her wet food. I made a cup of coffee. I went out and sat in the sun, and boom, I started. And that was it. And it lasted 3 years. And the whole time, I felt like, for lack of a better term, the term I use is a muse. I had the muse at my shoulder. Sometimes I thought it was the cat. I don't know. She's definitely part of it. It took 3 years, and then it was done. I still remember finishing it, and then something telling me, that's it, you're done. It was sort of a strange moment. But it's based on real experiences, extrapolated, yes. As far as the characters, it's based on some people I have known, particularly the Dasein character. A little story that takes place in Formentera, which is one of the Balearic Islands when I was 18. In fact, the German friend I ran into later was there, as well as a Scottish guy I met. And I had this experience there with the Dasein character. The book it means a lot to me, not because it's my book or I want to make a lot of money for it or any of that stuff. I wanted something different, and I wanted a book about healing because that's what this planet needs.
What's at the heart of this story?
As a student of history, I know that we keep repeating ourselves as a human species. No matter where you go on this planet, it's the same shit over and over. What we're seeing right now with Putin and Ukraine and what's going on in this part of the planet, what's going on in this country and everything else, It's been repeated over. It's like watching the same television program again and again and again and again and again. That's why you get sick of it. Okay. I'm trying to break this mindset that we are locked into, and it's part of our conditioning. So part of the book has to do with the ways, and we explore it, the ways in which we are conditioned. Now, I know that sounds boring, and I guarantee you the book isn't boring. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of sex and violence in it, okay? There's a chase that takes place, starts in San Francisco, heads east into Canada, into Europe, down south through Europe, into Africa, into literally the ends of the earth, Cape Bojador. Okay. And the whole time, these people are coming together until there's 9 of them. The Ennead, 9, coming together, the Nexus. And they're a healing group. And there's one of them, is the Hawthorne character. And he's part of their group too, but he's the bad seed. And so they're not only healing themselves as a group, they're healing the bad seed so that they can make progress. Otherwise, they're going to keep going through the same shit over and over again, just like we do on this planet. So a lot of the conversations, and there's a lot of conversations in the book where I'm bringing up ideas I have ruminated on over the years, and they need to be discussed because I never, ever come across them being discussed, certainly not in this way. And so my whole point is to try to change the way people think. I don't mean try to change. It sounds like I'm trying to force somebody. I wouldn't force anybody to do anything. I never force students to do anything. And even though Hawthorne, so we call him the bad guy, thinks that he's chasing them, they're actually dragging him along. It's a little game they're playing until they get back to Cape Bojador and they can heal him. It's all been planned. So it's a synopsis is there's a group of people coming together. They're trying to fix one of their badly damaged components, and they are using themselves and also using things that they're doing to him to make him pursue them so they could get him where they want him. Okay, and they do.
Great, David.
So, I would like to just mention one more thing.
Okay.
I didn't write this book for any personal aggrandizement. Okay. It's like, oh, look, I'm an author. Any of that sort of shit. Okay. I wrote it because, well, I'm a good writer, but that's beside the point. Mostly I was a poet. But it felt like it had to be written. Now, as far as any other plans are concerned, I got something I'm doing with ancient China. You probably never heard of this guy, Fazlin. One of the great explorers who left China when he was an old man and traveled to India to gather Buddhist tracts and things like this. And we're talking early 4th century AD years.
Wow, David.
And I've got something there and I want it, but it's beside the point. I'm not like, I don't have all these stories I want to write now or anything like that. No, it just is it.
All right. David Glicker, author of The Ennead Nexus. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much. You're welcome.
Okay.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go up to Toronto, where we find Darryl Philip. He worked in IT for many years, but he's always been interested in the mystical side of life. Now he's got time to explore and find the answers to questions he's had for a lifetime. All right, how you doing, Darryl? The name of your book, Relax. You're Not Going to Die, Part 1. More spiritual insights for your life.
So I've always been interested in the mystical stuff because the churches, could never really explain a lot of questions that I had. I was basically curious, a curious kid. And I would ask questions and they could never really explain, or they would say, you got to go and find that in the Bible kind of thing. Right. And so I started to investigate myself. Back in the 70s when Raymond Moody brought his book out, it started with that, I think. But then there was also a continuing education in Toronto here. It was called the Toronto Learning Annex. And they would have speakers come in. So, and some of these were like near-death experience speakers. who had near-death experience, like Daniel Brinkley came, and I would go and see them and reading books in that genre. Eventually, my brother-in-law handed me my the Conversations with God book, and then I was really impressed with that, and it resonated with my spirit, and I said, this is really great. And then, like everybody, Alice, there comes a point in your life where you say, you know what, what can I do here to make a little bit extra money? And, a little voice in my head just said, well, why don't you write your own book? Because even the books that I was reading in that genre, they weren't really explaining things, like to explain, why are we here and why is life the way it is? So, a combination of these things. I'm naturally, I have a love for reading. At the time working downtown in Toronto, I had a 45-minute commute, and I'd have my books on there, and electronic readers that they have today, they allow you actually, to take sections or record sections of the book you're reading and send it to yourself in like an email.
Okay.
Right, so it's almost like it allows you to make up these notes, right, and then send them to yourself. So I started doing that, and very first thing I did was I made an outline, or what some people call it a wireframe, but it was basically, okay, here's your introduction, this is what you're going to talk about, here's the points you want to make. So I had all that kind of laid out first, and then as I was reading the books, the quotations in that I would take and say, okay, you're going to fit here, and this is where you're going to fit here to support this concept or this point, and so that's what it started with. So I had my notes and I had my outline, and then I just began to write, to put them all together, to merge them together.
Give me an example of one concept that you seek to explain in your book.
Okay, so one of the and most important concept is God loves unconditionally now. We know that from the enormous weight of evidence from the near-death experiencers. So in the book, I brought 4 near-death experiencers. I profiled them and, showed them, got the appropriate quotes that they made about, God's love and feeling unconditional love. And so I put those 4 in there together. Then, you've got quotes from Conversations with God, where God is saying, look, I love unconditionally, right? And you have to learn to accept it, because you have built a God that excludes, a God of exclusion. And I don't exclude. Everybody is invited. God's kingdom, everyone is welcome, kind of thing. I love unconditionally, right? So that's one way a point is made. So I gave the near-death experiencers reputable ones too. Like, 2 of them are doctors, and one's an orthopedic surgeon and the other one's a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
And the other 2 are more or less everyday people, but they're giving their experience, so that gives it credibility right there. So you've got them you tell their story. They're saying, yeah, it was unconditional love, and then you back it up with here's God's quote from himself from the Conversation with God, and you put that together. But that's an idea of one concept, but that's generally what I'm doing, for all the other concepts as well. You talk about things like some of the doctrines in the church. So for example, in the Christian religion about original sin and where that came from, right? And there's quotes in there from people who have researched that.
Yeah, you know what I'm curious about? Your title, Relax, You're Not Going to Die, Part 1.
Yes. So, right. So I wanted something that's would seem kind of relaxed, but it still at the same time capture their interest. Like, hey, we know today we never die, and here's the evidence in here that we never die, right? And in that sense, it would help people to awaken spiritually. So what's happening right now on a larger scale, Alice, is we're beginning to spiritually awaken. Like, we understand now why we come, as spiritual beings, why we come to earth. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm here in this lifetime. And the church is not going to tell you this. The mosque is not going to tell you this. The synagogue or the temple, you're not going to learn this. So I see a big opportunity, and that's why I wrote the second one, because I couldn't put everything into the first one. I didn't want to make, a 400-page book. I just split it up into two sections. But the whole idea is after someone reads it, they should be like spiritually awakened. And that's how I have tried to market the book, and this is what I'm doing with my YouTube channels. I'm just completing the second one, and hopefully get another one off before the end of the month.
Tell me how you're marketing the book.
Okay, so I do go to shows. So, for example, I don't know if you've ever been to a Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, but they take place they're a weekend long, and they'll take place. It has everything that has to do with body, mind, spirit. So you'll get healers there, people healing with sound. You'll get gifted psychic mediums there. You'll get everything around the spiritual and body, mind healing. And I'll go there. I'll get a booth, and that's just something to go and talk about. That's not big. That's more to make an awareness, and that's more to get a networking. I don't expect to go there and sell a ton of books at these shows, but I do want to get the exposure. Sometimes if there's an opportunity to talk, I will take that opportunity and that. But and now I'm with social media, I'm trying to build the brand, and now with a YouTube channel, and I'm also going to put something quick on Instagram just to say, hey, well, this is the time, this whole life, Alice, it's really a spiritual adventure.
Right.
So it's in everybody's best interest to be spiritually awakened. Right. It's in your best interest to have a different, have a perspective and be a spiritual perspective on life, because not everybody does, and people have questions. And the thing here too, Alice, is it's the truth. At least I believe it is the truth.
All right.
Right? Given the readers, the near-death experiencers, right? The conversation with God, the gifted psychic mediums, right? So I'll give you one example, right? All of our religions, they all have like a version of a hell. It varies, but people being condemned and to an eternity in hell for the wrong things that they commit. It can create some worry and stress for people in life. But the reality is now is that we know God loves unconditionally. There is no hell. You can't love someone unconditionally and then put some people in hell. Right? The gifted psychic mediums. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the gifted psychic mediums, like for example, Teresa, aka the Long Island medium. Or
yes. I have interviewed her. Yes.
They're all. I love them all, and they'll talk about some memorable readings. But not once will you ever see any of those gifted psychics say, "Oh, I contacted this person. They're in hell. They lived a bad life, and now they're in hell for an eternity, and they're telling me that they're sitting by a lake of fire, and they're getting poked with a pitchfork every now and then." You just don't have it. And when these gifted psychics they're talking to people that took their own lives, some deliberately, some by accident. Right? They're talking. There's people that just didn't live good lives. And they're on the other side. They're always safe. They're always at peace, right? And so we know that. So there haven't been. There just has. And on my research, I have not seen any existence that somebody is in hell for an eternity. You don't see it from the gifted psychics. Conversations with God tells you, there is no hell. All the talk with the spiritual realm or those on the other side, will tell you that there's no hell. And I use a number of examples in the book with that, right?
Well, you know what? It's certainly food for thought, Darryl Philip, author of You're Not Gonna Die, Part 1, More Spiritual Insights for Your Life. Thanks for talking with me today.
Well, thank you, Alice. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Robert E. Pace lays bare the mind of a paranoid schizophrenic in 2 books that he's written entitled Chillin' in a Straight Coat, based on the travels of a madman, volumes 1 and 2. Robert, you describe your book as a collection of events and illusions that have either been helpful or destructive to your life.
Right. I hope it's a lot of illusions in the book. It's a lot of illusions. I wish I want to get both books turned into a movie. I think it'd be a great movie with the way the illusions could be displayed on film.
Okay. Did you ever write before this?
Yeah, I was a music producer for a brand called Bergamot. It's my home brand, Bergamot Studios, and I was giving out free studio time to a lot of artists. A lot of people came through. A lot of people come to my apartment and record and stuff like that. So I got a little street fame from that, being that I have free studio time. But I have a YouTube page, Bergamot Studios YouTube page. We have been making music. It's in the first book. We've been making music for a long time. Me and people, my friends in my neighborhood, we used to make the music when we used to just take the tapes out. We used to tape over the instrumentals of artists or a piece of their music, and then loop it over and over again, taping it over and over again on other tapes. So we were making beats and stuff and rapping, and have rap battles and stuff, neighborhood rap battles way back in the 80s. The book is about my life story, how I went through racism at Ohio State University. A lady was in blackface in my closet. I almost shot her in one of my apartments.
Wait a minute. A lady was in blackface in your closet?
Yep, came out of my closet. I got a little sleep. I woke up and I went to open the closet door, and she fell out of the box that I had my speakers in. She fell out of the box. She jumped up. She had blackface on and threw up some little sorority sign or whatever she was throwing up and ran out of my apartment. I almost shot her. My gun was right there.
It was a sorority prank?
Yeah, I believe so.
So you talk about your time in Ohio State. What else do you talk about?
I talk about me becoming sick and coming home and then trying to go back to Ohio State and failing and then turning to doing more criminal things and
like what?
Robberies. Just because I had lost my job at Ohio State. I worked at traffic parking at Ohio State. I lost my job because I didn't have a student anymore, and I needed some money. And so I went this devil's route. And I said, fuck God one time. I screamed it out loud driving down the freeway. And after that, as soon as I said that, I like some kind of nectar or something was placed in my mouth. It tasted real good. I guess that was God showing that he was still with me. And he's been with me ever since. I'm a real fan of God. I'm real big on God. So it's just how my life turned around, especially in book 2, how my life turned around and things became better for me. I graduated from school in this book. I was a madman. I graduated from school and I drove. I'm almost every state of this side of Mississippi looking for jobs. I didn't even walk for graduation. I drove for graduation, I say.
You talk about your struggles with mental illness.
Yes. It's still a struggle. It's just an everyday thing now. I got diagnosed when I was 24 years old with paranoid schizophrenia. First it was acute paranoid schizophrenia, which means short term.
Okay.
But it hasn't been short term. It's been turning slowly to depression. I was diagnosed with depression. I've been depressed before. It is back to schizophrenia, so it's basically got a schizophrenia. I take Haldol for it. I shot. I didn't get injected every month. I see a counselor for it. I see a psychiatrist for it. It's still nothing really helps. It's kind of a gift and a curse because I can see and do things in the imaginary way from this illusions and make them work for me to be a better person. I always think of the book of God, having a good life, being strong, with God. So I always try to, anything negative that comes out of the illusions, I try to turn around and make it positive for myself. But it's always been an ongoing struggle. It's just been, sometimes it's hard to distinguish between real life, because it would be things would be moving in cartoons, and it would be placed upon a person or the cartoon, or who was listening, who was saying, who was speaking. My father always told me to look at a person's mouth when they speak. That way you know that there was coming from. But that didn't work, because I was still seeing two T's behind people's mouths when they talk or whatever. So it was just like, it was just basically trying to, praying. To me, it's been about praying to God and let Him lead the way for me, and to keep myself educated, as far as if it's just reading books at home, or educate myself through YouTube, or if it's just going to seminars or whatnot like that. Keep myself educated on things so I can keep my mind uplifted, see over the illusions, and work better with that.
Why are you sharing your story?
I believe it's a story to be shared. I'm the last of my kind, last of my bloodline. So I believe it's a story that should be shared. My grandfather, on my father's side, he adopted my grandfather. He adopted my father, but his last name is Pace. My original last name is Steele. His last name is Pace. So we came up under Pace, and Pace had a museum. Had a show, on the show, what do you call that? A presentation in the museums in Birmingham of slavery, and they featured my grandfather's bloodline. And me and my sister, and we're the last of my sister's too old to have kids, and I'm not going to have any kids. So it's like I'm the last of my bloodline to leave a legacy behind.
How are you telling people about your book?
Not too well. I need more advertising. I'm doing stuff on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I need more interviews. I need more exposure. I think I might have to market myself a little more, as a personality, and then bring the book forth with that. I'm on Facebook with E40 and 50 Cent. I don't know if they really read their Facebook page, but they always post stuff on there, and on Instagram and stuff like that. I'll be trying to leave little messages, let them know that I got two books that I can make into a movie. Even if the movie is going to be seen on Tubi, or if I have to sell the rights to whoever, I would do that. So, the book is written where I didn't even use the names of the people involved in the book. I changed the names up. I didn't even mention the cities really too hard too. But they can take the story and put their own cities, or own people, names of people if they want to, change the names, or if they want to come see the likeness of the people I'm around now that are in the book now, they can do that as well. But it's really about getting the story out there.
All right, Robert. Good luck with this. I hope writing has become a sort of, therapeutic tool for you, and you keep moving forward. You are Robert E. Pace, author of Chillin' in a Straightcoat, based on the travels of a madman, volumes 1 and 2. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.